class, we learned about the brain. We found out that specific regions of the brain process particular information. The frontal lobe is responsible for decision-making, problem-solving, planning, and emotional regulation. The parietal lobe processes sensory information, spatial awareness, and manipulation abilities. The temporal lobe is crucial for auditory information processing and memory, especially visual memory and language comprehension. The occipital lobe processes visual information, and the cerebellum is responsible for balance and posture.
We used to think that if our ears were cut off, the temporal lobe would no longer function, and if we went blind, the optical lobe would atrophy. Essentially, we had a major misconception that if a specific part of the body was damaged or lost, the corresponding brain area would also lose its function. But this is wrong. Thanks to brain plasticity, the brain takes a risk to gamble for adaptability. As humans left the relatively stable environment of the savanna, they had to adapt to ever-changing terrains and weather to survive. A pre-designed structure would not have allowed the brain to adapt, so instead of rapid growth and specialization, the brain chose plasticity to flexibly change in any environment. This is why unlikely a newborn gazelle or giraffe can run immediately, otherwise we required over 10 years of parental care. Then, what exactly does brain plasticity mean? Our brain is connected to various body parts such as the face, arms, and legs. So, returning to our question, what happens to these brain areas if a body part disappears? In 1797, a bullet traveling at 300 meters per second from a Spanish army rifle stopped its dangerous flight in the right arm of the British naval Admiral Sir Horatio Nelson. Due to the risk of necrosis, he had to amputate his right arm. A few months after the amputation, Nelson had a strange experience. He felt as if his missing right arm still existed. Nelson saw this as proof of the afterlife and the existence of the soul, but modern neuroscience discovered something different. When an arm is amputated, the brain area responsible for that part begins to be taken over by other areas, restructuring neural circuit to adapt to the new environment.
Brain plasticity is so powerful that if we tie two fingers together, the brain areas responsible for them will soon merge.
But how does the brain notice this environmental change? In 2005, Danielle, who had been raised like an animal in the closet in Florida all her life, was discovered. Although she was human, she lacked typical human expressions and behaviors, and couldn't speak at all. Despite the best effort of doctors and social workers to teach her to speak and live like a human, she couldn't learn anything properly. The human brain is born incomplete and grows by studying external world. For example, sensory cortexes develop their functions not because genes predetermine them, but because signals from sensory organs happen to reach those areas. However, Danielle didn't receive enough of this stimuli, so her brain didn't have a chance to develop. In an experiment, scientists swapped the auditory and visual cortex circuit of a ferret. The visual and auditory cortexes quickly switched roles, and the ferret could see and hear without any issues. Thus, each part of the brain is not born to do a specific task, but does so because it is given the task. The brain works like a company. When a specific type of work is assigned to the department, that department starts handling it. If that work is no longer assigned, the department gets absorbed by another and reorganized. Ben Underwood lost both eyes to cancer at the age of 2. However, Ben learned to make clicking sound with his tongue and listen to echoes to determine what was around him, much like a bat uses echolocation. This ability wasn't unique to Ben. Thousands of blind people have repeatedly developed this skill. Their brains show that when they hear sound, not only the auditory cortex but also visual cortex is activated. Studies suggest this reorganization happens much faster than expected. After just 1 hour of covering eyes with a blindfold, the visual cortex begins responding to sound signals. But the greatest challenge to the visual cortex comes at night during sleep.
During sleeping, the lateral geniculate nucleus in brain stem sends random signals only to the visual cortex. Simultaneously, the pons in the brainstem paralyze muscles, allowing the body to experience the world without moving, creating dreams or REM sleep. It seems the brainstem is trying to keep the ideal visual cortex busy by providing fake tasks. As we age, the proportion of REM sleep and dreams decreases. Precursor animals, whose brains are more developed at birth, experience less REM sleep and dreams compared to altricial animals, which requires prolonged parental care. This is because their brain plasticity is lower, preventing the visual cortex from easily disintegrating.
Various interpretation of a dream exist, but perhaps dreams are just a form of internal politics within the brain to protect its territories. By the way, how did the brain respond if completely new tasks were added?
Some people with cataracts who receive artificial corneal implants can see ultraviolet light because the artificial cornea doesn't block UV rays, giving the visual cortex new tasks. The brain's cortex is a versatile data processing engine. For decades, scientists have been developing devices to restore vision to blind. In the 1960s, the electrotactile machine was developed, converting visual signals into tactile signals on the scalp.
Though it looked absurd, it worked. Initially, people were confused by the unknown stimuli, but the brain soon organized a new team to process the signals. Surprisingly, people felt they were having visual experience, not just detecting objects through touch. How was this possible?
Essentially, eyes detect photons, ears detect vibrations, noses and mouths detect chemicals, and skin detects pressure, all converting to electrical signals. The brain distinguishes these signals and processes them as visual, auditory, gustatory, and other sensory experiences. Scientists believe the brain recognizes patterns or characteristics in these electrical signals, allowing it to handle them as different senses.
Any meaningful information or pattern in electrical signals can be processed by the brain. Scientists have also experienced with belts that sense magnetic field and convey the information through vibration. After wearing it for a few weeks, people could use this sense for navigation. In other experience, electrodes were attached to visual cortex of blindfolded mice to convey digital compass signals, allowing them to find food without using their eyes.
These studies suggest that as long as meaningful information flows into the brain, it can handle not just a sixth sense but also a seventh or eighth sense. However, simply receiving new information is not enough to utilize new senses.
The brain receives countless irrelevant signals. If the brain changes for these signals, it would continuously change without consistency and accomplish nothing. For the brain to change, it must recognize the need for that change. Simply repeating something without meaning does not change the brain. It is crucial to feel motivated. A case in point is world-renowned violinist Isaac Pullman. After a performance, an audience member praised him, saying, "I'd give my life to play like you." Pullman responded, "I have."